Hey, welcome back. As you can see, we've gone ahead and added some recessed details at the very front of our shape here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and add raised details, which means they're going to be raised relief off the surface. And I'm going to show you how to do it using the exact same technique. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to our recess final layer. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and click that on and off, so you can see what that is. And what we're going to do is we're going to build on top of that. So in order to do that, we're going to go to Layer, and we're going to create a new layer. Oops, sorry about that. And we'll call this layer 1D. Okay. And we'll go Raised Detail. Okay. Now remember, just like we did recessed details, you can do it either by hand or you can bring in artwork. And I'm going to show you both ways. Okay, the first one I'm going to do by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and use my paintbrush, and I'm going to go ahead and select a light gray so we can see it. Okay, and then what I'm just going to do is make sure my brush is, now I'm going to make the side brush a little bit larger so we can see it on the demo, but you always want to make sure when you're adding detail, you want to make sure your brush is as hard as possible. So that looks like a good setting. And I've got my opacity setting at 100%, so we're good to go. So the trick to doing this is to go slow. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and press down. Make sure you're on a dedicated layer. Okay, have a little fun with this. Okay, so we're going to have these three little ribs. Now these three little ribs are just graphically indicated, but what we're going to do now is we're going to go back in. And remember how we went ahead and clicked a little bit to the right of the named layer? Okay, so you're going to go ahead and double click on that, and you'll see a layer style menu. Okay, so what we want to do is again click Bevel and Emboss. Okay, did you see that? I'm going to click it on again, Bevel and Emboss. Okay, and what you want to do is double click or click once on the space just to the right of it again. Okay, just like we did before. Okay, and what that does is exposes controls, and you can see what you can do with the controls is you can adjust the depth and the size and the type of embossment. So what we want to do here is we want to go ahead and reverse that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the direction of the light go the opposite direction. Do you see what we did? We went down to 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth row here of selections. So before we did down light, and now we're going to go up light. So you see definite difference here. So that's how we create our raised details. Now I'm going to adjust the depth control to see how deep a recess or raised detail we want here. Now we can also play around with the different types of treatments, right? And different types of styles. Ooh, that's a little harsh. Emboss is usually like 99% the best one, all right? But it's still good to go through it to see, because you never know. Everyone's got their own different type of requirement for their raised details. And I think Emboss Chisel Hard will give us a defined raised detail. And you can also play around with the size, right? Depends on how you want to make that emphasized. Do you want a big fillet radius on there? Okay. And you can also adjust the lighting to make sure it's consistent with your rendering. Okay. That looks pretty good to me. So let's go ahead and hit OK. All right. And there you have it. Now, because it's on a separate layer, you got to make sure that you lock these two together. All right. So we're going to go ahead and open a new layer. Oh, hold on just a second. Let's drop down below that activity to the layer before. And hit new layer. We'll call this again 1D. And we'll just call it Raise Final. Okay. And like before, you go up to the raise detail and you right click and you merge down. Okay. And what that does is that locks everything together. So when I go into that detail, let's go ahead and grab it and move it around. You see, they stay together. All right. All right. That looks pretty good. All right. Now, I want to also demonstrate the other type of raised detail that you can do by bringing in artwork from a file on the outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open a new layer just above that one so we can park some artwork in there. So let's go ahead and open a new layer. We'll call this 1E. And we'll just call this artwork raised, or raised artwork. Sorry about that. Raised artwork. Now you can bring in some black and white artwork. I think that's really the best way to bring it in, because that way you can use your magic wand and recolorize it. You can reassign a different value, and that'll give you a little more flexibility. And I'll go ahead and show that to you right now. So we're going to go to File, and let's open up a little bit of artwork. Now I'm bringing in this logo. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring in this artwork. Okay. Now notice it's got a black copy. Okay, and it's got a white field on it. Now, so the field actually is defined by this rectangular shape. So we'll come back and talk about that a little later. But let's go ahead and copy that, and let's bring it into our rendering. All right. So you see, by reserving that layer, that artwork just falls right into place. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring it into position. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of my transform tools to then go ahead and rotate it. Okay. And then now I rotate it, but man, it isn't really in perspective quite yet. So we're going to go back in and do transform. So we'll drop down to the second one and go, oops, sorry about that. We'll go ahead and grab Skew. Okay. And Skew will allow you to grab these handles, and you see what it does when I pull that handle? And I use these edges here as reference to make sure that I'm going to the right vanishing points. Okay, so some of that 132A, 132B basic fundamentals and perspective are still really needed when you're, even if you're doing some Photoshop rendering. You need to kind of be aware of that. Okay, so I'm just going to drop it in best I can. I think that looks pretty good. I might go ahead and free transform that one corner. So I'll go ahead and skew that back a little bit, because I want to make sure that plane aligns with this plane, right? And this one does the same thing as well. Okay. It's just good housekeeping. All right. I think that looks pretty good. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop it up just a little more here, because it's closer to the foreground. It should have a little more of a wider stance in the front. All right. That looks pretty good. So let's tweak it just a little bit more. Okay, that's good enough. Let's click outside and accept it. All right. Now, before we do anything, we gotta knock down this black. So this black copy is really not going to give you that molded in look. So what I'm going to suggest is you use your magic wand while you're here, and let's go ahead and select out the black. And what you want to do to select them all together is to hold down the Shift key. Okay, over here on your left, and just click inside the black letters to capture all of them. And then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and recolorize them. So what I'm going to suggest you do is use the same gray that we already have set aside, and use your bucket and re-render those. Okay, and the only reason why we're doing that is we want this to match the tone of our top cover. All right. So I think that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and deselect. And I think we're ready. All right. So let's go ahead and double click like we did before. We'll go to the right of the named layer. Okay. And hit your bevel emboss. Do you see it? Do you see it? Now, it did do a little bit of a transformation, but not quite as much. But if we want more, we got to open up our control pad. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a look at the different type of treatments we have. Okay. I'm going to leave it chiseled hard so it has a little more definition. Light up so I have more of a raised situation. So you can see that. And then I'm going to play around with the lighting to see if I can get that to go with me. Okay. Okay. The lighting still isn't quite right. Hold on. Here we go. That'd get rid of the global light. Okay. And I'm going to play around with the depth. Okay. Now, what's happening with this bar is that it's now raised off that surface. Okay, but one of the things we want to do is we want to try to go one step further. I want to try to get the letters to be raised even more. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and copy those letters and put it on a separate layer, and we're going to yet again apply bevel and emboss. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to keep this setting the way we have it. Okay. I changed this to chisel hard so I can kind of get a more defined feeling. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is, before I go too far, I want to make sure that my initial layer of raised artwork is there. And I'm going to use my Chuan. Okay. And again, hold down the Shift key. All right. Now I'm selecting those 4 characters, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy. Okay, and I'm going to open a new layer. We'll call this 1F. And we just call this raised numbers, or raised characters. How's that? Okay. See, I have to keep a separate layer in order for this all to happen, because if I don't, what's going to happen is it's going to fight whatever layer I had previously. Okay. So let's go ahead and paste that down. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and subject that to bevel and emboss. Okay. Did you see it? Did you see the transformation? I'm going to go ahead and turn that button off again and just go ahead and turn it back on. Okay. Do you see that? So that already gives me a pretty good feeling of what I'm going to get. So let's go ahead and double click on bevel and emboss, and let's see if we can maybe drive that, make that a little more dramatic. Okay. Yeah, it looks like that's about all I can get out of it. Now I can reverse it, but I think I liked it better the other way here. We'll go ahead and have the light going up. You see the light coming from the upper left corner of the illustration. Okay. And there you go. All right. Now, as I said before, you still need to create some layers to park everything together. So I'm going to go back to the raised layer here. I'm going to introduce a new layer. Oops, sorry. I'll call this raised frame. Okay. And what that's going to do, it's going to allow me to park the first layer down. Okay. You see how it became very solid right away. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a new layer. Okay, raise characters 2, and that's going to allow me to right click, right, and merge that down. So now that's even more enhanced. All right. So that's how you would go ahead and create more raised details. Now, here's something also that you can do. Let's say I want to get rid of a detail. Let's say that frame is a little bit confusing, and I really don't want to see it, but I just want to keep the raised characters. Okay. You can go ahead and turn off that layer, and look what you get. You get just the raised letter. Actually, I kind of like this better than the raised cartouche. Okay, so zoom out. Okay, and take a look at everything. All right, so this concludes a video on raised details, and thanks for watching.